Actually,
Hi.
technically, you requested a call. Oh, pedantic already. Sorry, go ahead.
So my dilemma is, um, weird to me, which is why I'm seeking counsel on it. But I am. We just had a baby. She's 11 months old. Well, not just, but and I'm working, not because I want to, but because my husband says it's best for our family. I think that, you know, we, I think we could survive, if I stay home. But I feel really guilty about it, and I'm not sure that And his logic is that I um, I need to be working because I'm kind of a bad housewife. So he wants to outsource things like care for the home and stuff with me at the job, and I have an MBA. And now I have a decently paying job, but I still would prefer to stay home. What why do I feel so bad about this? And are we making the right call?
It's your husband's not here, is he?
No, no, he's not, and I'm not trying to disparage him at all. Um,
No, no,
but
I wasn't trying to disparage him either. I was just wondering if I could get his side of things. Okay, so it's a great question. And first of all, I really miss those baby sounds. Oh, can't wait to be a granddad. But congratulations on your baby. And you're saying you're working at the moment. So how many hours a week are you working?
40, 80 hours every 2 weeks.
Okay, look at that. I just did that math in my head. And who's taking care of your baby when you're working?
She goes to a Montessori school.
At 11 months, right?
Yeah.
So it's not really school at that point, right? It's like a
Yeah,
daycare.
I feel better calling it school than I do calling it daycare because I feel so guilty about it.
And what age did your child or your baby go to Montessori?
She started part-time at 9 months.
Okay, and so is she full-time now in Montessori?
Yes.
And how was it for her when you dropped her off?
She hates it. I'd say now I think like 3 out of 4 times when I drop her off, she gets upset, and I'll call her. I'll call the school a couple hours later. I'll ask how long she cried, um, and they'll tell me that she stopped when we took her to the window to look out the window at the birds, or not that long at all, or things like that. And then in the beginning, I had a lot of trust issues, and I didn't fully believe them when they told me that she stopped crying, or when she stopped crying, or all that other stuff. But yeah.
And I'm sorry to talk about this. Don't answer anything you're not comfortable with, of course, right? But what's happening with breastfeeding?
Um, we're she was doing baby-led weaning, starting solid food before, while we were in part-time. And for the first, she started around 9 months. I would go in and breastfeed her, just whenever I felt like it. And now she eats before I drop her off, and she does solid food at school. And then when I pick her up, I feed her, and on the weekends I feed her. And we also do co-sleeping, so she breastfeeds all night.
Yeah, she wakes up and you throw a boob at her. Right. Okay.
That's right. Yeah.
All right. And did you have discussions with your husband before you got married or had your daughter about childcare arrangements? Who was going to take care of the baby, whether it's going to be you or someone else?
Nope. No, we got married pretty quickly.
Okay. Did you? I mean, you had certainly 9 months over the pregnancy period to talk about this stuff. So, what was your husband's expectations as to who was going to raise his child?
He well, he didn't really make them very, very clear. I knew he did, except that he wanted me working and that we were going to make it work. So I was, MBA job application processes can take a long time, and I was recruiting while pregnant. So we
Sorry,
had
recruiting or recruited?
both.
Okay. So you were offered jobs while you were pregnant.
Yes.
Why does your husband want you to work? Because I think what you said earlier was that he's not satisfied with you as a homemaker. Is that right? Is that why he wants you to go back to work, or is it to do with money, or what?
It's a little both. It would be better for us. Better for us financially, for both of us to be earning income. And also, I am a terrible housekeeper. We're both, personality-wise, we're both pile people. I know that's not a good excuse, but it's just, we're both cluttered people. We're not filthy, we're just cluttery. Like laundry piled up on the couch for maybe a bit too long, and it takes a couple of days to do the dishes, that kind of thing. And
Sorry, but wouldn't it be much cheaper to hire a maid on occasion than it is to pay for Montessori?
Possibly.
No, not possibly.
Okay,
It
yeah,
is.
yeah,
It
you
is.
might be right.
I mean, come on, MBA. You got to
Yeah,
do a
I
cost
know.
benefit analysis on this, right?
Right. Well, we're both MBAs, but we're also both veterans, and we went to get our MBA because we thought it would be leadership school, and we were both surprised, but it was mathematics involved.
Okay, so what is your salary? And again, don't have to get into specifics. I assume that when you work full time, do you earn significantly north of six figures?
No.
Is it six figures?
Me, no. Our combined household, yes.
Okay, but so for you, are we talking 60, 80, something like that?
90.
90, okay. So the expense of having somebody work is considerable because you have to pay for childcare. You have to pay often for a second car or more. There is, of course, dry cleaning. There's lunches out. There's gas. There's maintenance. There's a whole bunch of things. Have you done the spreadsheet to figure out what you're making per expenses of childcare and having a second job are deducted? Because of course, what are you taking home after taxes? Like 60 of the 90, and then you've got to deduct all of the childcare expenses and all the other things. So what are you making per hour when you have finished all of those calculations?
I haven't run the figures on it. He has the spreadsheet, not me.
Okay, but I'm sure since it's your life and your motherhood that he's shared with you. So let's say the 90 nets you 60 at home. How much is the Montessori per year?
24,000.
Okay, so 60, you got 24,000 down, which brings you to 36, and then you probably have to deduct another 10K just for additional expenses and wear and tear on cars and gas and insurance and all that kind of stuff. So you're looking at 26,000, which is $13 an hour.
Yes, right now. But he's more future-minded. So it's in about 7 years, I'll probably be out earning him.
Okay, but I'm talking now, because now is when your baby is little, obviously, right? So are you selling time with your baby for $13 an hour, which is minimum wage?
I am.
Is that a good deal from your baby's perspective? If, in other words, when your baby gets older and says, she becomes late single digits, late latency period, early teens, and your baby comes to you and says, I really hated daycare. Why did you do it? And you say, well, I got $13 an hour to drop you in daycare. Will your kid say, yeah, well, I can understand that. That's a good decision. That makes sense.
No, she won't, and that's probably why I feel guilty. So you've answered my question.
I'm a little, maybe there's something that I'm not quite understanding, and I'm not playing dumb. Like I genuinely don't understand it. I mean, when you become a parent, you kind of have to do what's best for your child, right?
Yeah.
So is you working, which isn't actually adding much after the expenses to the family income, and is negative for your child. I mean, I've got a whole presentation called The Truth About Daycare, which you should look into about what happens to children in daycare as a whole. So if you guide yourself as a parent by that which is best for your child as a whole, would you work?
I wouldn't.
Okay. Does your husband, is he guiding his decisions by what is best for your daughter or some other standard that I'm not quite aware of?
It must be some other standard.
Well, I mean, you know the dude, and what is his standard? What do you think his standard is that he's judging if it's not what is best for your baby?
Um, Probably what is, he's probably okay with sacrifices in the short term for our long-term
No,
success.
but you can't make sacrifices on behalf of your baby. That's not how it works.
I'm aware.
That's not a thing. That's not a thing.
Well,
Right?
so
Because
then,
if you, sorry to interrupt, but if you guide by what's best for your baby, you can't say, well, I'm going to sacrifice the baby's happiness for some increased money 7 years from now. That's not your choice to make.
I understand. I'm hoping that there's some logic that you can find in it, because my quandary is, do I obey and fight obey or fight my husband? And um, I don't want to fight him.
No, of course. And also, if you fight your husband, the stress hormones go into your breast milk, which is also not ideal for your baby, as far as I understand it. So I'll have a word with your husband in a moment, because maybe he'll watch this, right? So, and I understand where he's coming from, and I sympathize with his perspective. I really do. So the question is he making decisions based upon reason and evidence, or is he making decisions based upon some emotional criteria that we're not particularly aware of? So, of course, the reason and evidence is what's best for my kid, and we'll make the sacrifices, because your kid's personality is formed largely within 4 years from now, right? Because 11 months, right? So by the age of 5. I promise you this, if you put your kid in daycare, your kid will end up bonding far more with peers over the long run than parents. And that's, relatively manageable when they're young. Oh boy, when you hit those teen years, my friend, and your kids are more bonded with peers than parents, you are in for a whole world of hurt, because the peers will end up influencing your children, and almost always in a bad direction. So all the time and money you make and save now, in a sense, is just going to be spent running around after them and picking them up from ditches when they're in their teenage years, because it has a huge impact. If the children are bonded with their parents, they have resistance to negative peer pressure. If you put them in daycare for the majority of their waking existence, and there are some studies that show that children in daycare more than 30 hours a week experience the same symptoms as parents, as maternal abandonment. So I'm not saying that's necessarily the case here, but you are a relatively minor part of the day compared to what's going on with the peers, the other kids, and so on. So it's not going to work out in your teenage years. Almost certainly, when your kids get to be teens, and you say, well, no, I need you to do the right thing, and they're like, well, but you dumped me in daycare for $13 an hour. Who the hell are you to tell me what the right thing is, right? So that's going to be a difficult conversation as a whole. So if he's making decisions based upon reason and evidence, there's no reason for you to go back to work. In fact, there's every reason for you to stay home. Do you want more kids?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, do you think it's really great for an employer if you're going to have more kids, go on maternity leave again, they got to hold the job? I mean, is that ideal for them? I mean, if you were running a business, would that be ideal for you?
It wouldn't, but I guess you would describe what I'm doing as workfare, because it's a government job.
Well, I mean, like most professional
Technically,
women,
technically.
the government is your paymaster. Okay. Okay. So is he making decisions based on reason and evidence? No, I think. And again, you guys can run the spreadsheets, but just the sort of back of the napkin calculations I'm doing on the fly with my admittedly limited math skills put you at best at about $13 an hour, which is not worth giving up time with your baby. And of course, you're just going to have more babies. And if you're home, you can then be with both of them. If you have 2 kids and you put both of them in daycare, then your costs go from, it's not exactly double 24, it's not 48, maybe it's 40 or whatever. And so all the additional money you're going to be making down the road is just going to be poured into more childcare. Like it really, you never get much above, if you keep having kids, you never get much above your $13 an hour, which is a sad reason to give up time with your children. I mean, you had kids in order to raise them and spend time with them, not to go chasing a couple of bucks an hour and leaving them to be in the company of strangers who don't care about them nearly as much as you do. Is that a fair statement, do you think?
I agree with you. I don't have that much to offer in terms of professional life. I am more valuable as a mother and as a wife. And if it comes between me getting my act together and cleaning the house more often versus being uh, I'll say coerced into working and putting my baby in daycare, then I would make that choice. But it's not it's not 100% my choice, and it's either a fight or I honestly, and I don't think that I can carry the guilt, the guilt I feel into our future and into our marriage.
No, and of course, if you feel, and you use the term coerced, which again I completely sympathize with and understand, but if you feel, in a sense, coerced or bullied into handing over your child, your precious baby, to strangers, um, well, did you say you were ex-military?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sure you're aware of the term blowback,
Hmm.
right? So if you feel that your husband has bullied or pressured or half coerced you into handing over your kid because you don't want to fight with him, you understand that that's going to undermine your happiness in the marriage because you're going to feel pissed off.
Absolutely.
You're going to feel controlled and maybe a little bullied, and that's going to have an effect on affection, spontaneity, your sex life, and all other kinds of things. So it's really, really important to have a way of having this discussion with him without the fight. Right, that's always a challenge. Now, do you guys have good rules or reasonable rules for conflict, like no yelling, no race, no intimidation, no name calling? Do you have those kind of rules of engagement? Look at me getting all military in my language here. Do you have those basic Geneva Convention rules of engagement in your marriage?
Yeah, we don't yell at each other, and uh we can have debates, but and he hears me out, and I feel respected in those debates. But ultimately, he does get the final say. If it comes down to disagreement that lasts a bit long in the conversation.
And is that, I assume you guys are Christians? Is that where that's coming from?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I'm not obviously going to try and dislodge any of that. If that's the core of your marriage, the core of your faith, and the foundation of your relationship, I'm not going to poke at anything to do with that. So it sounds to me, this is where I get all female and intuitive. So forgive me if I get things completely backwards. I could be talking out of my armpit and going entirely in the wrong direction. So forgive me if I do, and put me straight if I do that. But it sounds to me like bro is kind of pissed that the house is a mess. And he views that as you failing at your job, and he's punishing you by sending you back to work. And what he really wants is a clean and well run household. But because he's not getting that, he's kind of angry. He doesn't know how to get it. So he's going to be like, fine, well, you just have to go back to work then. It's almost like a going to the brig, or some sort of punishment. You're being put on potato peeling duty because you talked back or something like that, or you didn't make your bed so tight that you could bounce a quarter off it. So it sounds like he's sort of maybe a little rigid, maybe a little focused on appearance, and because you're not doing a good job at the home, he's firing you by kicking you upstairs into a job. And I think that that's a bit of a power play, and I think that comes from his anger, which is then going to generate your anger at feeling bullied. Does that make any? This is obviously completely intuitive, so I could be totally wrong.
Um, yeah, that could be a big part of it. I'd say that might be 80%. And then I I mean, I guess to make a case for both of us, which isn't going to be a good one, but let me.
Make it away. Yeah.
Um, it if I don't do this job, they're probably going to hire a worse woman for it. Um, and
Oh,
that's
no, 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 no. I'm sorry. I just felt a significant portion of my brain liquefy in my skull.
I know
So
that's okay. It
hang on.
wasn't a good one.
Are you saying that if you don't do the job for the government, they're going to hire someone worse to do it?
Well, that's it's half a joke, and I
No,
know this
no.
is very serious.
I'm so sorry to keep interrupting you. I have to deliquefy this part of my brain, or I'm just going to slosh around like a bag of tomato soup for the rest
It,
of the day. So
yes, well, I am
the
qualified.
principle is you can't quit on a job because they're going to have somebody worse do it. Well, how about the job called motherhood? You're quitting on that job and having somebody worse do it, which is a daycare worker. Isn't that a slightly more important job than whatever email nonsense you're doing for the government?
Yes.
So that principle makes no sense at all. Well, I have to have you dump her kid in daycare because we can't have other people doing a worse job. Ah!
I mean, I have to exhaust all the silly things.
Okay, that's good.
If he listens to this, he has, all of the things have to be knocked down.
Please, and he's welcome to call, of course, as well. I'd be happy to chat with him, but go ahead.
I mean, I don't know what other silly things I could knock down. I am qualified to do this job. I'm good for the position. Probably not the best, but the likelihood that they'll find someone else who's better at this specific thing is not very high. And I don't know if it's worth the cost. And I
You know,
want,
when the government gets more efficient, people's liberties tend to diminish, right?
this is
The inefficient government is often the only chance we have for freedom. So the fact that they might replace you with somebody less competent in a government job, it seems a big plus to me. But anyway, go ahead.
yeah. All right.
Okay, so that's your 80% is he just is firing you for being a bad housekeeper and kicking you into a job. Maybe 10% is this, well, we can't have a worse person doing your job, ignoring the whole daycare situation. What else have we got?
I mean, I can't. I don't think I can say anymore without sounding silly. So I
Sorry.
resign.
You know, we're already past that, right?
Oh
I
yeah,
don't.
way
That line
past
is a
that.
little deep in the rear view. If you want to say anything else, obviously don't say anything you don't want to talk about. But if it's your husband's perspective, we kind of need to listen to it and address it, right? Because look, we all have pockets of crazy in our relationships, right? Absolutely. So don't feel embarrassed about that. We all do that. We all go nuts from time to time in all of our relationships.
Well, it's my fault then. For being a bad housekeeper. If I were a better wife to begin with, then he wouldn't want to kick me out of the house to go peel potatoes.
Okay, so then the question is, and I appreciate your patience with this, and don't give me some ADHD personality nonsense, because if you're ex-military and you say, well, I have no control because I lack discipline, I'm going to remind you of your time in the military where I'm not exactly a soldier, but as far as I've seen it, there's a certain amount of discipline that's involved in the military, right? So why do you think you are, as your husband describes, a bad housekeeper? What's not working for you? What's missing for you?
I don't know.
Would you like to know?
Yeah.
Because you're pissed.
Because I'm pissed.
Because you're pissed. Because you didn't like being ordered around probably that much in the military, but at least there was a larger objective for it. But because bro is putting a massive amount of pressure and perhaps even some hostility and contempt into the mix, you don't want to do it. You're like most people of integrity. You'll do just about anything that people ask you to, but nothing that people tell you to. It's passive aggressive response. You don't want to do it because you're doing it to please him rather than from some internal value. Therefore, you feel bullied. So you don't want to do it. You postpone it. You procrastinate. You guys are passive aggressive, hot potatoing each other back and forth to eternity.
Ouch.
I say this with sympathy, and I understand where it's coming from, if this is the answer.
I mean, it sounds right.
No, you're a woman. I don't care what sounds right. I care what feels right. And I say this with no disrespect whatsoever, but it needs to feel right. Now, if it's not right, we can look somewhere else. But generally, most
Well,
people
it
hate being bullied
hurts.
and pressured into doing things. Okay, why does it hurt? Tell me. And again, I'm not saying it shouldn't hurt. I'm just telling you
Well,
why.
it hurts. It hurts to hear it. And it sounds like it might be the truth.
Well, what's your general perspective when people are very pushy about things with you?
Oh, I fuck off or tell them to fuck off.
Okay, but because you're Christians, you can't do that to the Lord of the Manor, right? So all you can do, listen, I'm going to tell you a great secret about husbands. Nobody else is allowed to hear this. Everyone else can just disconnect, right? Sometimes we do a bad job so we don't have to do it again.
I knew it.
No, it's true. We get together and we plot and plan about all of this in our secret Elk Lodge conclaves. So like my wife has particular ways of cleaning the dishes that is part voodoo. I think there's some irradiation involved, and sometimes crows peck at it. I don't really know what happens. But whatever does happen, when I do the dishes, it's not right. Even loading the dishwasher. Do you know that there's things that can and cannot go into the dishwasher? And men do not have the genes that allow us to recognize those things. In the same way, I don't know if you know this either, not everything can go into the laundry at the same time. Like you have to separate stuff.
Right now.
I'm sorry?
You know what you're doing right now.
It's appalling. And there's things I can do, of course. I can vacuum because it's not complicated. Like I can hold entire conceptual arguments in my head. I literally cannot remember where things are in the household. We have this sort of joke in my household, like when we're out hiking in the woods, I always know exactly where we are. I can get us back like that. My wife has no clue. But in the house, even if the peanut butter has been in the same place for 4 generations, I don't know where it is. And I can't do things in the right way. So we have a division of labor. But all joking aside, sometimes doing a bad job is passive aggressive. And the slave can't rebel by telling the master to F off, but the slave can be slow. Not so slow that he gets beaten, but slow enough that he's registering his complaint and his unhappiness with what he's ordered to do. And of course, I'm sure that happens in the army all the time. When people feel that things are unjust, they just don't do as quick or as efficient or as good a job. So if you feel like he's got these standards, and if you don't match these standards, you're a bad wife because you went from bad housekeeper to bad wife. That's a whole different category. You can be a bad housekeeper and a great wife. But I think if he's pushing you and has contempt if you don't do it, and I don't know, he probably hasn't said anything like, you don't clean as well as my mom, because that would just be throwing yourself on a grenade that no man would sympathize with you for, right?
Never say that.
No, of course, right. But if he's got like, well, you have to do a good job. I'm working hard all day, and you can't even pick up these clothes, and you can't even finish these dishes, and you're just lazy and doing a bad job. If he's kind of bullying you, putting you down,
no,
then you're going to resist. Or even if that's implied, then you're going to resist wanting to clean, because then you're going to feel it's not for you, it's not for the baby, and it's just because you're being disrespected or put down for not doing it, and that's just not enough of a motivation to keep going. So sorry, you were about to say.
Yeah, it's all unspoken. We kind of read each other's minds, and I understand that there's many potential problems with that. But I feel like I would be better off if I reframed, his dependence on me knowing where everything is in the house, as love, it's,
Boy,
because
that was hard for you to get out as love. It's like watching somebody cough up a hairball.
I know, like Hank Hill.
Well, to be fair, though, to sort of take the side of husbands just very briefly, to be fair, you all do move stuff a lot. It's like, oh, this was not efficient. I've moved it over here. And it's like, when I first got married, I referred to my wife as Heidi. Her name is not Heidi, but I referred to her as Heidi because you put something down and it's been tidied. It's been moved. It's become more efficient. And I'm like, why don't you tell me these things? Well, it just makes sense. It's like, but not to me. So the reason I ask for my wife where things are is because a lot of times, not all the time, obviously, maybe it's only 25% of the time, but I ask her where things are because there's a not 0% chance she's moved them. And not always, right? But it means that I'm more likely to go to and look, she's got her reasons for moving them, and I'm not going to argue about those things. But it does make it. When I was single, I just knew where everything was, and now when you get married, you put things down and they get tidied, and then you don't know where they are. So just a sort of minor point. So the other analogy that I would have, and again, I hope this isn't coarse or anything like that. It's sort of like sex, right? Like if the man says to the woman explicitly or implicitly, like, you owe me sex, wifely duty, you got to do it. I'm going to be mad if you don't. I'm going to make your life unhappy if you don't. I'm going to pout. Well, that kills the sex drive in women, because then you feel kind of cornered and bullied, and you're giving it up for the sake of keeping the peace rather than having a joyful, loving connection of fun adult time, right? And so if this is for the people who are listening to this to sort of get this sort of analogy, But if you feel pushed, pressured, and bullied into having sex, or you feel like there's going to be a negative consequence if you don't, like he's just going to be mad all day and not talking to you and negative or sour or something like that. Fine, okay, it's 10 minutes, it's 15 minutes, and then he'll be fine tomorrow. But that becomes a kind of obligation that's not about sort of spontaneous love, connection, and joy. It becomes about managing someone rather than connecting with someone. Well, I have to give him sex, otherwise he's going to be negative tomorrow, right? So I'll just manage him, but it's not freely expressed and chosen. And I think if, again, it's a big analogy to use, but sometimes that helps. If it's like you're looking at the pile and if it's like, well, I have to do it because otherwise my husband's going to be mad, that's just not a motivator. You can force people to do stuff for a short amount of time, but in the long run, the blowback, the passive aggression, the procrastination, it all begins to undermine, and then you just won't do it because, in a sense, you're being forced to. If that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense, and I understand the salacious topic is good to keep interest, but yeah, I fully agree with you. And now what?
So then the answer is to and he may not be a big talking about feelings kind of guy, but if his argument for you going back to work is generated by emotion, then reason won't help. It's actually kind of funny because that was my first debate tonight, where reason and evidence didn't help, didn't change anything. So if he's got an emotional reason for, like, he's just really mad because he thinks that you're being lazy by not taking care of the house, and maybe that's disrespectful to him, or his love language is coming home to a tidy house, and he comes home to a messy place with sticky stuff on the floor or whatever, and he just has an experience of being unloved, disrespected. You're lazy, you're taking advantage of him. Like, if he's got that kind of thing, right? Which men have. We have a concern that we're paying a bunch of bills. We're going out and working 12 hours a day or 10 hours a day or whatever, including the commute. And, old wifey is just sitting home, with bonbons and soap operas and, chatting with her friends and barely paying any attention to the baby, not cleaning up the house. And then men start to feel taken advantage of. Now, please understand, I'm not saying you're doing that. I'm just saying that's a general male fear. And so if his frustration with the household stuff and his desire to, quote, punish you by sending you off to work to fire you from being the homemaker, if that's coming from an emotional place, then you need to figure out what the messy house means to him, right? It's not what happens in life to a large degree. It's what it means to us. So when he comes home, especially as a military guy, he comes home to a messy house that hits him in the feels. Like, I'm telling you, real deep down, men have emotions just like women. It hits him in the feels, and that translates into a moral judgment for him, a moral judgment of you, a moral judgment of the marriage, and so on. And so he needs to talk about what the messy house means to him. Now, that doesn't mean that your house should be messy. It doesn't mean that you don't have any obligation to tidy or clean or anything like that. I'm not, but this is not working. And the person it's not working for most is not you or your husband, but your daughter. It is your daughter that this whole problem is not working for the most. Obviously, if you can satisfy your husband and you can stay home with your daughter and not hand her over to strangers for $13 an hour, that's better. But he has to be honest, right? Thou shalt not bear false witness. Feel free to quote him that. He has to tell the truth about what the messy household means to him. Now, I don't know the guy. I can chat with him and ask him these questions. Maybe his mom had a really messy household, or maybe she had a super tidy household and that's his standard, or she had a messy household and that's like triggering him when he comes home and sees that kind of mess. Maybe he feels like, if you worked as hard as I did, the house wouldn't be messy. Therefore, you're exploiting me. Maybe he was exploited in past relationships. Maybe he was exploited in the army. Maybe his parents exploited him in some manner, or some ex-girlfriend or something like that. So there's some echo of the past that's going on here, that the messy house means something that is so negative that he's willing to hand his daughter over to strangers and punish you. That's how angry he is at the messy house. Now, there's nothing objective about a messy house that would make him that angry, which is not to say that his anger is not justified. It may be justified in some context, just not in the present context. And so, yeah, having that honest conversation about what the messy house means to him it will then lift the emotional bullying and then leave you more free to do it out of your own pleasure and free will rather than as a management or an appeasement thing, which never lasts. I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
I think I know what it is. I think it's a sense of betrayal because when we first got married, there was this we there's this idea that we would be working professionally, be like a power couple, and then make a lot of money together. And then for the first few years of our marriage, the first 5 years, I didn't work. I couldn't find a job. I didn't work very hard to find one. And then, when I finally, get all the qualifications and, and I'm ready to be a big earner for the household, I
You
get
get
pregnant.
pregnant. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
And so now he feels betrayed.
Right. So I'll pay all the bills so that finally you can get my income. Oh, honey, I'm pregnant. I don't think I'll be able to work. Okay. Okay. And so then the question is, and these are all of the onion levels in a relationship, all of which are generally complex, is why did you not work, or as you say, work particularly hard? Of course, I mean, I assume this was, over COVID and stuff like that. The entire world went completely insane and kind of evil over COVID. So that was really, really tough as a whole. It was a lot easier to keep your job than get a job over COVID, jab accepted. So what do you think your reason was for not working particularly hard to try and get work over the last 5 years? Oh, sorry, during the previous 5 years, sorry, it would be 7 years ago. So pre-COVID, because you were pregnant and then you've got a daughter, so a little under like 18 months, 2 years. So
Yeah.
what do you think was the first 5 years? What was going on for you there?
Well, I mean, we did move a lot because military. That's one thing. I went to grad school. I Yeah, that's so in 2019, we got married. I moved across the country to live with him. I worked a few odd jobs and internships, was underqualified, so went and got my MBA. COVID happened, and then recruiting went nuts because I was not going to get the shot. And I did work at home, getting
Man,
all
your
the
entire
resources.
life has been about avoiding getting shot. Anyway, go on.
Yeah. So I mean, the work that I did do at home was a lot of research. So like a bored housewife, I was on the internet constantly, learning as much as I could about this crazy jab and what was happening in the world. And I put together his exemption paperwork for the military so he could get exempted from the shot, which may have saved his life. But all that. COVID, all the other stuff. Like COVID is everybody's excuse for being lazy. In addition to that, I was kind of lazy. Um,
And why do you
but
think, did you guys think of having kids prior to, or what was the 5 year gap? I mean, I'm not complaining
we,
about it. Obviously, it's your marriage. I'm
no,
just curious.
no, yeah, we were trying very hard. And I had some
Well,
medical
how?
issues.
Hang on. I'm so sorry to interrupt, and I apologize. Then look, I hugely sympathize with
Yeah.
fertility issues. It is a massively under-discussed topic in society. Like a significant portion of married couples struggle with fertility issues, and it's brutal on the marriage. It's brutal on the happiness, and particularly
Mhm.
just by accident of biology, it tends to be more on the female side than the male side. So it's really tough for women to maintain their sense of worth and self-esteem. So I just have massive sympathies for all of that. But if COVID's going on and you're trying to have a baby, how ambitious are you supposed to be?
No, you tell me. I don't know.
Well, not very. Because if you're every month you're expecting to be pregnant, how are you supposed to buckle down? And I mean, I understand getting the degree, I suppose, because at least that's can be put on hold or whatever. But going to get some high power couple job when you're all trying to put a bun in the oven and COVID, it doesn't, I wouldn't put that under the category of lazy. It's like, because it's easy to look back and say, well, my gosh, the medical issues and the infertility, it was a couple of years, but you don't know that every month you're right. Nobody said you can't have a kid. So every month you're like, come on, man, come on.
Yeah,
Make the
4
union,
years.
make the union, and you don't know. Looking back, right? But every month you think it's going to happen, and you taking your shots or whatever it is you're doing. You're checking your FSH levels and so on. So every month you think it's going to happen, and it's really tough to plan because everything's on hold, waiting for that. Sorry, I don't want to tell you your experience, but I'm probably something like that.
No, it's something like that. And then, you can just pile on a little bit of guilt, be it misplaced or not. Then that's pretty much it. I could have been earning. There are a lot of things that I could have done. a lot of things that I said that I was going to do that I didn't do. And likewise for him. I mean, everybody, I'm not going to say everybody has those deficiencies, but
Everybody has those deficiencies, my friend. Everybody has those deficiencies. And, it is important, of course, as Christians to recognize that everybody is susceptible to bad decision. The devil works in mysterious ways and everybody makes mistakes. And honest conversations and apologies and forgiveness is the foundation. I mean, every marriage, if you can't forgive, you can't survive 20 minutes in a marriage because, there's chafing and decisions and all that kind of stuff. So, I think if you guys sit down, you just have to have these honest discussions about what your perspective is of each other. If there's been stuff that has diminished respect, honest conversations is the only way to restore it. You can't restore it through better action because that's still pretending that something didn't happen that happened, or didn't happen that was supposed to happen. So having those honest conversations about where you are in the marriage, your husband's fears about maybe being exploited, his frustrations that you didn't, quote, do the right thing and all of that, even though, as you say, you may have saved his life with your research. And having, for a man to recognize that the woman's experience is different. So he's very ambitious. He's obviously a high status, high driven, high testosterone kind of guy. So he has 17 times your level of testosterone. And it's not the only thing, but it's fairly important in ambition. So if he's thinking, well, basically you're just a man with boobs, then he's not understanding what it is to be married to a woman. You are fundamentally different from him. You do not have the same level of drive and ambition, almost certainly. And so for him, it would be like, well, I couldn't imagine being unemployed for that long. It's like, well, that's because you're a guy and you're not trying to get pregnant and you're not wrestling with all of that kind of stuff. And so, recognizing the differences, and of course, I don't need to tell you this, the man's and the souls, women are created differently by God himself. I don't need to tell you that. But if one of the fundamental mistakes, and I'm not trying to project here, but one of the fundamental mistakes I made early on was thinking that my wife was just kind of like me, because we get this Star Trek, everyone's copy paste stuff, right? So my wife is, but she's fundamentally different from me. I've referred to women as delightfully incomprehensible, and that's good. That's because of division of labor. Like if I hire an accountant, what the accountant does is incomprehensible to me, but that's why I'm hiring him, because he's different from me, and that's why we fall in love, is because there's differences and there's mysteries and there's stuff to learn that we can teach each other that can only come from a male or female perspective. And that's why we united are the most powerful force in the world. But if people are different from you, you have to find a way to respect it if you're married. And you made different decisions than your husband did for the first 5 years of your marriage. That's because you're a woman and you're struggling with infertility, and he's a man and he's, driven to go out in the world and, chew gum and take names and do all of those manly things. So I think having those honest conversations will reduce the pressure, right? So if he's pressuring you to have a tidy home, damn it, and you've got to be clean and it's lazy, and right, that is not going to motivate you in the long run. Aggression gets short-term compliance and long-term resistance, and this is going to be true of your daughter as well. You can bully kids into short-term compliance. They've done all these studies with spanking and so on. You can bully kids into short-term compliance, but you just get long-term rebellion. And when they hit their teenage years, they're really going to hit back hard, because now they have all this size and independence to pay you back for when they were helpless. Have those kinds of conversations about what's going on deep down in your heart and soul. That is the union of man and woman, and that is not bearing false witness. Have those conversations. I think you'll be surprised at how enjoyable homemaking can be when you're not being pushed into a corner to do it.
Thank you. And one more thing, and I know this is going to sound totally off topic, but I don't think it is. May I ask you a personal question?
You can ask me anything you want.
Do you fart in front of your wife?
Do I fart in front of my wife?
Yeah, like do you fart in front of her, or do you go to another room?
I mean, I'll generally try to keep it relatively quiet. I apologize to all of the cushions in the house. I generally will try and keep it to a minimum, but I will not go to another room, because it's not my fault I'm gassy as a man. It's not my fault. It's not like I'm taking a poop in front of her, right? I mean, being gassy is just part of the male digestion system. We just have more and louder farts than women. And I can't be paranoid about that kind of stuff. In the same way that I don't expect my wife to clean all of the hair out of the drains in the shower, right? I mean, as you may guess, I don't know if you've seen me, but I don't have a lot of hair that ends up in the drain. My hair mostly ends up in the wind. So I don't expect her side of the bathroom counter to be as quote tidy as mine, because she's a woman, so she has just a lot more mystery potions and goops that go on. And so I accept that there are going to be things that she does that might be mildly off-putting to me, but I'm not going to sit there and say, well, you have to clean everything up after you, and your side of the bathroom counter needs to look exactly like mine, and there can't be any shower, there can't be any hair in the shower, and blah, blah. She has to have some sort of relaxed existence, and I have to have some sort of relaxed existence, because it's honest and it's real. I'm not obviously going to make a big show of it. I'm not going to do any blue angels at the dinner table, but at the same time, I'm not going to sit there and say I have to go into the car because I'm gassy, because I live in the car.
No, that's all. I was just curious about. I don't know why, but a lot of our arguments, most of our arguments, have to do with. We don't talk about money. We just talk about farting. Because
That's interesting. Okay, well, listen, you drop me a line, or
yeah, will.
drop
Thank
me a
you.
line. You can find me, of course, on X. Just and let me know how things are going, and if there's, of course, anything I can do. If your husband would like to chat, I'm not the lowest T guy around, and maybe that would help. I'm certainly be happy to chat with him, and I really do appreciate your frankness and honesty. And go rescue your daughter.
Yeah, thank you, Stefan.
Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. Thank you for. I know we've had some long calls. I don't need to fart.